Hi and welcome to the Machine Ethics Podcast. In this episode we're talking with Ricardo Baeza-Yates. This episode was recorded on the 27th of July 2020. Ricardo and I talk about responsible AI, the importance of AI governance, questioning the intent of creating AGI, robot rights and brain neural rights, ethical risk assessments, machine ethics, making ethical choices on behalf of your users, binary notions of trust, stupid uses of AI, and much, much more. I have to apologise, all my equipment kind of broke on me for this episode, so we did a recording in a cafe in Bristol, one of my first face-to-face recordings for a very long time, so that's very exciting for me and hopefully it'll be interesting and fun for you too. Because of that fact, we recorded straight into my computer and we have quite a lot of background noise. I'm really sorry, we're going to try and fix the issues and come up with better audio next time. If you'd like to find more episodes, you can go to machine-ethics.net or contact us at hello@machine-ethics.net. You can follow us on Twitter at machine_ethics, Instagram Machine Ethics Podcast, and if you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/machine ethics. Thanks very much for your time and hope you enjoy. Hello, thank you for joining us on the podcast. If you could introduce us to who you are and what you do.
Yes, thank you, Ben, for the invitation. I'm Ricardo Baeza-Yates. I'm Director of Research of the Experiential AI Institute of Northeastern University. I'm working on building a research team inside the institute and also in charge of two different research lines. One is on the new ways of searching and understanding language, and also responsible AI, which is my main interest today.
Awesome. So the question we always ask first on the podcast is a general one. Ricardo, what is AI?
That's a hard question. I think AI is different for every person. I would say that the standard definition is trying to mimic the human brain, but I think that's a definition that is a bit naive, in the sense that computers are not like us. So maybe it's really artificial in the sense that it's different, but still it's not that artificial that, for example, doesn't use resources that are important to us.
Do you think, given that definition, we're still using that, like the brain analogy, or are we? Because it feels like to me that's very far away from, decision trees and
Yes.
Some other kinds of algorithms, and then you might be alluding more closely to neural networks and things like that, which are analogous to maybe how the brain works, but not exactly. Do you think there's a disconnect there, or are we just using our tools now that we have and they're good enough, sort of thing, that they're not like the brain, almost?
Yeah. Well, the main tool today is deep learning, which is more related to the brain because it uses neural nets. But I would say that most people are still thinking AGI, so like general intelligence. So they're thinking in trying to emulate the human brain. But I would say that it's a group of people, and I guess I will count as one of them, that believe that we should work on a complementary intelligence. So let's define a different intelligence that basically is everything that we don't do well, that computers can do well. For example, memory, speed, brute force, but not really trying to be as smart as us, because that also has some other dangers if you do that.
I'm smiling. I feel like we could get into that in a bit. I wanted to first look at what your definition of responsible AI, as you said, that's close to your heart at the moment. What kinds of things are you doing and talking about in that area?
Yeah, so we use the term responsible AI, which is not the best possible, but we haven't found something better, because we don't want to humanize AI. So we don't want to talk about ethical AI, because ethics is a human trait. The same with, say, trust. So I don't like trustworthy AI, because that's also something that is human. In addition, when you use trustworthy AI, you are putting the burden in the user. So basically, you are saying you should trust instead of someone being accountable or responsible of what you are doing. So that's why we use responsible AI as the main term.
Yeah, so it's the responsibility of whoever's making it rather than the AI itself.
Yes, but not necessarily who is making it, because maybe this is being sold by a different company. I think it should be like any other product. The people that is making money with that should be the persons accountable, and they should take care about the risks behind the product.
Yeah.
So today, things that we're doing, we're working with large companies like telcos and fintech on the governance of responsible AI. So how do you do that at the company level, such that any machine learning model that comes out from a company, it makes a simple, basic questions that you should make, like it's a legitimate application, did we have the right competence, did we have the right to take the decision, and so on. And then you can go to things like transparency, explainability, privacy, security, and so on. Like they're like, I have 32 different properties of software that you can apply.
Right. Okay. And you guide those companies through that process, and then you kind of do you just leave them with a process that you can get on with, or is it?
So we, in our model, we do like a course of action that will include designing the AI ethics principles for the company. So they are tailored to what they are doing. And then we have not only the governance, but also we can help them with doing audits on the technical and the social side of their products. And also we do the training, because the governance alone is interesting, but if you don't teach the people what it means and how you do it, things stay the same. So you need change from people to make the software responsible.
Yeah. So upskilling, governance.
Yeah.
And presumably there's buy-in from the C-suite, the company in the first place?
Yeah, the upskilling has several different levels. So, for example, it's at the employee level, for example, there's the developers, but also you need one for the managers that will basically run the governance. But also you need one at the C-level to understand how important this is in the future. In some sense, I see this like as organic food. Like will be a marketing tool too. Like you are responsible about what you do.
Yep.
There are many examples where the companies have been responsible.
Yeah, and it's almost like you're not saying that this is foolproof. It's you are doing the best thing you possibly can to make this the best that we can make it for people, right?
Yeah, it's not foolproof, but I think it's like bias and discrimination. 80% of the problem is awareness.
Right.
So if you have the right awareness, you start thinking differently. So for example, if you know the questions that you need to ask, you cannot say, oh, I didn't know. No, you knew it and you didn't do them. But there are some set of principles that companies have to also, even if they don't have principles, there are principles like coming from UNESCO, from the OCDE, from ACM, from IEEE, that they can adopt, including the code of conduct that still have existed for a long time, and they are not being adopted. So the problem is not lack of rules, it's lack of adoption.
Right. I think I could push back a little bit, because sometimes it's hard to appreciate what you're supposed to do with let's say quite fuzzy language, or like language that could be interpreted in different ways. So if you're going to just look at the OECD principles, for example, I think they're really good, but they don't necessarily tell you what you should be doing. They tell you what you should be thinking about, I guess. You should be thinking about people on planet, you should be thinking about privacy and robustness, and then you have to interpret these things into your work, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
That's why we think that the most important part is the governance.
Yeah.
So how you take these principles, these rules, these ideas, and you put it into practice, because it's harder than what most people think.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. So that's exactly what we're working today with several companies.
Yeah, great, awesome. And if we go back to what you were saying earlier about the kind of general artificial intelligence, so AGI stuff, is that something that you think is realistic that we should be chasing, or something that you have thought about a lot, or is it something that almost you feel like we should be, putting away?
I don't think too much on that because I'm kind of very skeptic about that.
Yep.
And then I don't want to waste my time on that. But I will say that let's say you can have something smarter than us. Let's assume that's possible. Mm-hmm. My first question will be why you want to do that, right? I mean, like why you want to play God and create something better than us. And the first problem is that why it should be better than us if we are making them, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
we're not God, right? But then if that happens, and if you see the state of the Earth, maybe it seems like a joke, but I would say if I'm a smart being and say, okay, what is happening in the Earth? Okay, what are the largest parasites in the Earth? These are us. So we have a good reason to basically wipe out the planet of the parasites, right? So it's really dangerous in the sense that intelligence can take a dimension that we don't know. For example, maybe there's another intelligence we can define that is related to what computers can do. And there I think it's more interesting to work on something that complements us. I think we should work on companions rather than competitors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're really talking about things that will hopefully make our lives better, help us make better decisions.
Yes, for example, help us to realize our biases and our ethics, and also what other people is trying to do to us, like if they're trying to manipulate us or if they treat us badly and we didn't notice, or there was subtlety that basically you can realize during your day. So there are so many things that computers do much better than us, like for example, remembering things, doing things very fast, doing things that need a lot of physical effort if you have the right robots. But for example, we have this bias of trying to make robots with our shape. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, why we don't have spiders that walk very easily and they can do things that we cannot do?
Yeah.
So I think we have this bias of humanizing things that don't need to be human. Mm-hmm. And then please don't get on robot rights and other things that are even more crazy, because why we want that?
Yeah. Especially if they're in service of us, then.
Yeah, in some sense, if we are creating something to help us, why we want to give them the same rights of us?
Yeah.
It's another contradiction for me. It's like I don't think it will be intelligent.
Right. For us.
For us,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
It's like.
Yeah. I think because we've had other people on the podcast who have said the reverse, but I think most of their argument, as far as I can paraphrase, and probably badly, is around how those rights aren't equal rights. We're not going to turn them into equal beings in, being able to have property and being able to have, all sorts of different rights that they don't need, essentially. But the conversation around rights is useful because then we can imagine, the kinds of things that might be useful and almost make them into entities which we can apply things to, a bit like corporate structures,
Or animals.
Or animals. You can give them.
We are animals too.
Give them things
We
so
forget
that they can be respected in different ways. So that, and it might be you give them tax, or you might give. You can attach things to them in a way which is legally defined rather than.
Yeah, but for example, I shouldn't take an axe and start destroying this table.
You shouldn't, but you could.
Yeah, but in some sense we have this respect already in our society.
Yes, yeah.
So we're respecting the property of others, right?
Yep.
So why we need extra is like also another topic that's very controversial for me is is brain rights.
Brain rights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the neuro rights.
Okay. Could you explain?
Oh, there's some people in the U.S. and in somewhere that think that human rights are not enough and you need to have neural rights. Basically, protect your brain to be manipulated, or things that like Neuralink and other things are trying to
Right.
directly interface with the brain.
Yep.
But if you know a little bit of neuroscience, the brain cannot live without the body, and I don't believe we are humans without the body too. So
Yeah.
technically, the brain was evolved to basically manage the body and thinking. And there's a very interesting book by Lisa Feldman Barrow about that has one of the lessons is thinking is a side effect of being very efficient on survival, and then we have free time to do something else. So the brain was not made to think, was made to manage our body, to basically do the basic things like eating, breathing, reproducing.
Yep.
But then thinking is just a side effect. So, and that's why some animals are going to that stage too, like maybe octopus, dolphins, and apes.
Yeah.
Other animals are also having some free time to think. But thinking is not part of the evolution in some sense. This is the current theory.
That sounds it's really interesting, and because of that, they're worried about the manipulation of the brain itself specifically.
Yes.
Yeah, and using technology, Neuralink, things like this to implant things, and because it's difficult for me because you can almost already manipulate people anyway.
Yes,
So
it's already happening.
yeah, it's a different type of manipulation.
Yeah, and also in the future there will be, I would say, brain interfaces that are less invasive. So maybe you just need to put a helmet.
Yep.
With some connections, and then you could try to do some manipulation.
Yep.
But I would say that human rights are already taking into account that, because basically respecting people's autonomy, which is one of the main values of AI ethics, so one of the three main values, autonomy, I think it's already covered. But because if you want to do that with the brain, why we don't do that with other parts of our body?
Yeah, we could. Yeah.
Completely it's nonsense for me, but there are very important people and biologists that are pushing on neural rights.
Yeah. It would be nice to hear more about how, like a case study to how you have done some of this AI ethics, or let's say responsible AI stuff in a company. Is there anything else that you can tell us about how that works? And it's sort of interesting to me also that there are outcomes, because it's very difficult to kind of sell this stuff in the first place and then have KPIs around it. And that's a very difficult kind of business proposition, other than the risk thing, right?
Let me give you some examples on the different steps. For example, one of the main ones before doing an application is the ethics risk assessment. So what are the pros and cons of having this product? And I'm sure you have heard about the trolley problem, which is completely theoretical.
Yep.
But let me give you a real AI ethics problem that it's not solved yet. And exposes the conflicts of ethics, because ethics is about conflict. Otherwise, we don't have any problem. So, ethics is about conflicting between good and bad, and then what is the right choice in the spectrum of good and bad. So, we all know that self-driving cars will kill less people. So this is for sure. We don't need. We can argue how much. Like 1/10, 100. But let's say you can save 95% of the people. Okay. The problem that the people that will die is not a subset of the people that we're saving. Not a proper subset. So we will save maybe 5% of the people. So we will kill still the 5% of that we didn't save, but we also will kill other people that before were never in danger. So for example, you know that mothers expect people to react in some certain ways. For example, old people react too slow, the kids react too fast, and sometimes also people do things that they shouldn't do, like the woman in Arizona in 2018 that crossed in a bicycle at night not in the proper location. But then we will kill some people that before were not in danger. And here we have the dilemma. And that people probably will be vulnerable people, like very old, very young, maybe other disadvantages or other disabilities. So the question is, okay, we will save 950 people, but we will kill 50 people that before were not in danger, and people that are particularly vulnerable. And the other 950 people, maybe most of them were men driving fast, which is the intention was like they were risking their life.
But they, they are problems for everyone else on the road, right?
Yes.
So
yes. Yeah. So or maybe the person that killed them.
Yeah.
Was like that. So this is a real dilemma. So maybe different cultures will say, okay, we shouldn't kill any vulnerable people. For example, in India, you cannot kill a cow, so and then you don't use them. Or maybe cars will have different. I have a friend that talks about Buddhist cars that really go very slow but don't kill anyone.
Yeah.
And you have Kantian cars, like German cars, that they want to be on time, so they will kill someone if they're in the way.
Okay.
So this is one step. So you need to do this careful risk assessment, but then you get to more subtle things, and we can connect to what you were saying about manipulation. You talk about digital nudging, right? So we are being nudged all the time. Yeah. But sometimes we can nudge people for good.
Yeah.
So let me put real dilemmas that may happen in fintech and education. Let's say that the system predicts you will do something that is not good for you. Right? Let's say you are doing a stupid thing with your money.
Yeah.
So the question is, should the system basically impact your autonomy of deciding whatever stupid thing you want to do? Or it should warn you.
Yeah.
Don't do it because of this. And this is a real dilemma for responsible companies, because they want to help people, but at the same time they don't want to be paternalistic and basically tell what you need to do.
Yeah.
So here is a real spectrum. In which line of how much I need to tell you that you shouldn't do?
Yes.
And this is hard. And then we are helping companies on making those decisions. But the best way to do that is not telling them how to do it also, because then we will have the same problem again, is to tell them what are the right questions and what are the right, common sense, which in Spanish we say it's not the most common of the senses.
That's a good saying.
Yeah. So this is what are the questions, and sometimes when you ask the question, they see something that they haven't seen before.
Yeah.
And then they can try to find the right spot.
Okay.
About the manipulation, right?
Yeah. It's funny that you kind of have to stop yourself from giving a correct answer, right? To stipulating what they should do and giving them the tools to try and work it out, in that circumstance.
But I think we need to distinguish between the technical side and the ethics side. So in the technical side, I don't have any problem giving them the right tools. So you should use this, or explore these 3 platforms and then choose the best. That's okay. The problem is when you are interfering on their decision process. Which is different, because if they already decided to do something, then I will help them to do that. The problem is when they are deciding what to do. And there I think you need to be more careful about respecting the autonomy of the people.
But it's not just the autonomy of the people; it's autonomy of the companies. People.
Yes, of course. We're talking about the company there.
Because it's interesting, because I think a lot of the stuff that I do is mostly concerned with stakeholders, and one of those stakeholders is whoever the direct user is.
Yes.
And that could be internal. It could be an internal piece of tooling. It could be a speaker, or it could be a some sort of loan application process. It could be all sorts of things. But also the stakeholders are the internal people making it, and your manager probably, and maybe you have external people who are asking you to make certain things because you're a services company or something. So you have all these people that you have to satisfy these things for, including your shareholders.
Yes.
And I think it's kind of difficult to juggle those decisions sometimes. So almost it might be easier to come in and go and tell them that they should be doing this instead of that.
For us, I don't think so, but for them, maybe.
Exactly.
Because then they can say that someone else told them to do that, and that they're not
fault.
accountable.
Yeah.
So this is one way to, but we don't want to do that also because of that reason, because we share the responsibility there.
Yeah.
And we have to share it, and they need to be aware, as I said before, aware of what they are doing. And also, if you don't ask yourself this question, you don't learn. So if I tell you exactly what to do, you may miss some important concept behind that, and you don't learn it. So sometimes, for example, it was very interesting because I said something in one of these sessions. I said something that for me was common sense, like for example, something like transparency without autonomy doesn't work. Right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have autonomy, it doesn't matter if you know everything. And then it said, "Oh, this is interesting. Do you have more like that?
Yeah.
Like what are these like very small rules?
Yeah.
That will help your thinking.
Yeah.
And for me, it's obvious, but maybe for many people, it's not obvious.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And that was interesting because they said, can you have more of these rules? And I said, which rule? Well, just you said, oh, for me, it's not a rule. It's just common sense. It's like,
yeah.
But you can have and I'm thinking now that you can write many of those. And maybe for many people it will be interesting because in some sense when you do that, you are putting the principles in action.
Yes.
What you are saying.
Yes. Yeah.
How you make it practical.
How do you do that? Yes. I guess the stickling point for us is always trustworthiness. It's like trustworthiness doesn't really exist without things to be trusting in. What is behind, what's instrumental to that trust. Are you trusting that blindly, or have they demonstrated something that you can then
although in my case I told you I don't believe in trust because it's humanizing the tools.
No, but you're trusting in the company at this point.
In the company,
right? Yeah. You're saying that we trust my product because it does X, Y, and Z, and if they don't demonstrate X, Y, and Z, how can you possibly trust it?
So trust in yourself. Yes.
So you're going to trust that, but you can't do it blindly. You have to demonstrate trust. You have to try not to break trust. There's these sorts of things. Trustworthiness in and of itself doesn't really help.
Yeah, and it's so easy to break trust. You need just one mistake.
Yes, exactly.
So, yes.
Which we've seen a lot of, right?
Yeah, but this is what is reality. Like trust is, for example, between people. You just need one mistake and your trust is gone. Trust is one of the few things I feel is almost like binary. Can you do half trust?
I think I don't know. I think my trust is contextual, so I can trust my friend that they will always turn up. Yeah, but they might be late.
Yeah, but I'm saying, can you do trust someone in 50%? For me, it's much harder to do that.
Probabilistic trust.
Yes, probabilistic trust.
Yeah.
I think that doesn't make much sense. Or you trust or you don't.
Okay.
But in the middle doesn't make any sense because it's almost like not trusting.
Yes, you're sort of trust.
Yes, so this is interesting.
Some trust, yeah.
Most human things are not binary, but this one is very close to binary.
Yeah. What is the level of trust do you have for me right now?
I haven't evaluated that. I don't know you enough.
Okay, a 7, whatever that means.
Depends. I can put the scale now. 1,000.
1,000. Wow. Okay. Cool.
No, that's the scale of the 7, from 0 to 1,000.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's terrible. I need to work on that then.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
You were thinking in 10, right?
I was thinking in 7.
Okay. So in some countries, 7 is the maximum
really?
grade. Yes.
Yeah, in stars or something, because it's.
No, it's the maximum grade. For example, in Chile, it's from 1 to 7.
Oh, really?
So that's important about the scales. If you don't know the reference value, you may make a mistake.
Yeah,
that's a problem with bias too.
Yeah.
That many times you don't know the reference value.
You won't look for it if you don't, have any idea that that's a different thing, a changed thing.
Well, you can know the direction that you have to go, right? But not the final value.
Yep. Yeah.
An interesting part of this responsible AI view that connects everything is when you need to audit software. And the audit is not only technical, but it's also social. Because one thing is that you show that, for example, that the software doesn't discriminate women, for example. But a different thing is the perception of women using the software. Mm-hmm. And then maybe the perception is still that they feel discriminated, and then you need to understand why. And maybe that means changing the interface, changing something that makes them believe that they are being discriminated, although you can prove technically that's not the case.
Yes, yeah.
And the other important thing there, and this will be a principle that I push in the ACM US policy team, where I belong now, is to have the basic principle of legitimacy and competence. So you need to do the risk analysis to make that tool legitimate, and you need to have the right competences to make it. For example, not only technical, not only the domain expertise, but also did you have the right to take the decision? Because in many problems that we had, like for example the collapse of the Netherlands government last year because of these subsidies for childcare, maybe there was one engineer deciding to look for fraud in poor people, which is not ethical, but he didn't have the right to take the decision. And then you trickle down to a whole government falling because someone took the decision that was not entitled to take.
Yeah.
And why I want to mention the audits and legitimacy, because when you audit something, you are legitimizing the existence of that. And in many cases, you should say, no, I will not do an audit because this tool shouldn't exist, because it's not ethical.
Okay.
And suddenly, some technical people doesn't understand that, and they audit things. For example, they can show that, for example, there was no discrimination for women, but they forgot that the system was using, for example, kind of images to decide that the person was a good person.
Right.
Which is basically pseudoscience.
Yeah. Okay.
So you have this everything is interconnected and makes things more difficult.
So before you even go through, before you consider auditing or helping a company with a particular thing, you might triage, let's say, the idea in its totality. Like, is this service legitimate? Could it?
Yes.
Should it be there?
Yes.
Do you have any kind of heuristics for that, or ways of working to know what that is, or is that kind of more a human rights / intuition sort of process?
I would say this in between, depends on the application. For example, in the example I use, if it's pseudoscience, you really have a problem.
Yep.
Don't use pseudoscience, and then can we use it? Can you do it otherwise? And maybe the answer will be no. If you don't have pseudoscience, you cannot do it. So this is one case. In the case of discrimination, you can do the risk assessment. Maybe they never did it because they didn't thought that the harm was large. But then maybe when you charge the harm, you say, okay, these are like you are harming the poor people. and helping the rich people. So there's like a double harm. And then you should go and do the risk analysis, and maybe you say like vaccines. Vaccines save a lot of people, and very few have some side effects, and like any drug also.
Yeah.
But then you did the analysis, and you did the studies that show that. In other cases, it's pure human rights or avoiding stupidity.
Yeah.
There are so many examples that are stupid that shouldn't exist. But for example, even in the UK, when during COVID they predicted the scores to enter the university, that was quite stupid, right? So they did the risk analysis. I don't think so, because they were never expected the drawback from people. And for anyone that has some experience on this, we know that historical data has many biases, especially in a country that has biases. So these are the things that sometimes I think is just common sense. Sometimes it's human rights, for example, like if you go to military applications, I prefer not to think there.
Right.
Because I'm sure that they already exist.
Yes.
And we cannot do anything about that. But
Maybe.
Well, there's people, right now there's a meeting on the United Nations trying to stop, for example, AI in weapons.
Yeah, I try to take the stance that it's better helping from the inside than standing on the outside. So, if I was invited to go talk at those sorts of things, I'd be more than welcome to turn up and tell them what I thought. Because then hopefully we can drive things in a direction which is ideally more beneficial.
I guess I'm in that sense I am with you, but I still feel that sometimes we are a bit naive. In the sense that we think we can change the system that has other incentives and other focus of power and that don't want to be changed. So if you look at history, many times the only way to change things was to do the opposite. So just looking at history.
Right.
Like, for example, monarchies didn't change because they wanted to change. You had the French Revolution to change that.
Yeah.
And it didn't change it everywhere, but at least now they don't have absolute power. You see?
Yeah.
And there are many examples like that. The Arab Spring, even what happened in Easter Island, if you know other history, like about two classes of people, and then finally one class that was dominant, it doesn't exist any longer. So I think history tells us that if we get to extreme, the only way to change the system is from the outside, and we don't want that.
Yeah.
So how we avoid that? And we avoid that listening, but sometimes people don't listen. And we are electing leaders that we shouldn't elect everywhere in the world.
Yeah. I think that's like a wider problem for a different
we're
podcast.
not talking about politics.
Yeah.
Let's not go there.
I think that would take us into maybe 3 hours.
You think we can do only that?
I think we'll solve it, yeah. So, what about the here and now is both really exciting you at the moment within AI ethics, and what is really scaring you in this area as well?
Yeah, so exciting is, I think, that I see more and more people that try to understand the limitations of AI and put them in the right context. Things like data is a proxy for reality. Data doesn't capture everything. Data doesn't capture the context. That there are many things that are not ethical and which you shouldn't do, or we should study more, like you do in medicine or drugs, to understand what will be the impact. So I think this is interesting to see that movement of people fighting the arrogancy and the foolishness of some other people, because I don't think that's smart. Like going pushing like for AGI, or people saying that these things are sentient or
Sure.
or even that they're conscious. So very, very smart people between quotes have said that already. Now what scares me is exactly the opposite. is having very good technical people that don't have too much emotional intelligence, and they're seeing that. For example, I think was in The Economist, a very senior Google fellow, that you see steps to consciousness in language models. And language models don't understand what they read, and they don't understand what they write. So this is like, I don't know, it's wishful thinking. I don't know exactly what's the difference between the human brain, what is real about consciousness. Not even neuroscientists know what is consciousness, and we will try to decide if machines can be conscious or not. We can use a different word, but that's better. But we keep humanizing things, and then the result could be, even if it's possible, what we talked at the beginning, like AGI could be really like the end of us. And I don't want that. Although I'm not scared about that because I'm a skeptic, so that will not happen. Yeah. But I'm thinking that if we don't take the right balance, we may enter another winter because people was pushing too much just advanced statistics. So deep learning is very advanced statistics with a lot of data, a lot of hardware, but nothing else. So I think we need to include reasoning, semantics. We need to do more like the old expert systems with the new systems. We need to do some kind of hybrid solution that will be better than both worlds.
There's lots of birds. I think sometimes people are almost allergic to semantic or expert systems, those sorts of systems, talking about it, because they're like, well, maybe if I talk about it, people won't think I'm cool and doing the new stuff. And I like the fact that you're kind of like making this, taking what's good from the old and
exactly.
Putting with, what's good from the new.
Taking the best of everything to do something better.
Yeah.
And in some sense, if you read what some very influential people have said recently, like Andrew and G said that this year we need to unbiggen AI because most of the problems have small data, so we don't have deep data. We can use deep learning for all problems. And I wrote a blog in 2018 about that, but it's good that he is saying it because a lot of people listen to him. We have this recent essay by Jan LeCun, which is saying this is the way to go and at least acknowledge some of the limitations of the current technology. Because sometimes you have even very famous people saying that deep learning will do everything, and I don't believe in that. So that's really a very narrow view of AI.
Yeah, and also everything could be, AGI, or it could be just a very specific job that we need to do. That we, with cancer research, it doesn't necessarily have to be the whole of AI. We can make something useful which solves a very useful thing that we need solving. Mm-hmm. It doesn't need to be the panacea,
Yeah, we can go case by case, solving the problems of humankind. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you very much for your time. It's a really joy to chat. How can people find you, follow you, all that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, my website is very easy to find if you search my name, and there is my email. Mm-hmm. And also people can follow me in Twitter. I had like kind of anonymous handle at the beginning, but now if you search my name in Twitter, you find it. But it's at Polar Bear by, and people don't realize that the last three letters RBY are my initials.
Nice. Cool, great. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Ben. I enjoyed it.
Hi, and welcome to the end of the podcast. Thanks again for listening. It was a real pleasure talking to Ricardo, and thanks again for spending time with us in your visit to the UK. I found the ideas around trust and binary notions of trust really interesting, and I think we could dig in there in a further episode. And the idea of people's own belief in the harms, or maybe that harms don't necessarily exist, or that they are being discriminated against is hard to disclose, it's hard to see, and better design around that can actually help people have a better appreciation, for what the technology is doing. Maybe they need to be educated about the technology they're using, or maybe they just need more information, more explicit, maybe more transparency to make that better situation. When things go wrong, is it you? Is it the tech? What is it? What's going on? Please check out more episodes like this at machine-ethics.net, and if you can, support us on Patreon, patreon.com/machineethics. And thanks for listening.